it is such an honor and such a privilege to be sharing a stage with so many brilliant Bitcoiners in one of the most beautiful cities in the world, with one of the proudest Bitcoin histories of any city on the planet. It is a really special moment. It's a really special conference, and I want us all to put a big hand together for Martin and Matthias, who have created this experience for everyone. Martin and Matthias, thank you. I'm sad to say this may be the first time we have seen a net immigration of Bitcoiners to Europe in quite a while. It is an undeniable fact that our people are leaving these shores, that more and more of us are looking to make our plan Bs our plan As. And it's breaking my heart. Europe is the spiritual birthplace of Bitcoin. Until Pythagoras, it doesn't seem to have dawned on any other civilization that numbers may hold the key to both power and wisdom. When Henry IV was made to wait outside Canossa in the snow, he started the separation of state and church, of which we are the direct heirs. In Venice, we unlocked the power of free markets. Luther proclaimed that we could find truth without a third party. The Enlightenment gave us notions of rights and liberties that we later won in wars and revolutions that were so terrible that at heart, we do not fear our governors. They are terrified of us. It's perfect that this conference should take place here in the Czech Republic. The Czechs have a long history of snapping their fingers at kings, of laughing at popes, of building up tyrants and then bringing them right back down again. It is thanks to Prague that the word defenestration is so firmly lodged in the English dictionary, because the Czechs literally took representatives of an oppressive international order and threw them out a window. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. It was here in Bohemia that many peasants refused to fight for their imperial overlords in World War I. It was here in the Czech Republic that the first shots against an occupying Nazi force were fired. It was a Prague Spring that revealed to the whole world the evil of the Soviet Empire. Many Czechs died on those hills, but their children giggle and eat ice cream in the palaces of past rulers, because it was also here in Prague that the corrosive corruption of communism was thrown off in a revolution so peaceful, we call it velvet. That should be a moment of endless inspiration to all Bitcoiners who despair at how entrenched our current fiat system is. The Velvet Revolution, one of the most beautiful moments in history. We are a spoiled generation of Europeans. Not only have we lived through an unusually long period of peace and prosperity, but we have a tool that many of us literally interpret as the exit. Apparently, it's marked orange. And with the ability to carry all your wealth in your head, why shouldn't you interpret fuck you literally and fuck off? That's what Max and Stacy did. I'm here to suggest that Bitcoin is not just an exit. It's a voice that we can use to shape Europe into the continent that we want to be in. For in the past, having FU money meant having money that made you untouchable. For Bitcoiners, it means having wealth that is untouchable and that we can dispose of freely as we please. I have seen it firsthand in my career how much it matters to not only be able to retreat, but to go on the offensive. When I started my career many years ago, I used to mule money, smuggle money to the illegal opposition in Belarus. Lukashenko, who's still in power there, has been in power for 30 years and controls every financial transaction and institution in the country. Sending money to them is sending an arrest warrant to the KGB. Yes, it's still called the KGB. They didn't even bother changing the name. So when I was young, we would collect money for them. We would go to Riga, take it out all in cash. I would put it in a small backpack. I would get into a small propeller airplane, fly into Belarus in the middle of the night, land in some field, get picked up by a shitty Skoda. They were shitty back then. They're good now. Don't kill me. Picked up by a shitty Skoda, driven into Minsk, hide a few days, hoping the government weren't following you, meet them in some tunnel, Cold War movie style, and give them a backpack of cash, and then avoid every beautiful woman for the next 3 days because they definitely work for the government. Today, we send them Bitcoin and no one can censor the transaction. Fuck you, Lukashenko, and every would-be autocrat out there. A few years later, I became a spook. I worked for the EU. I became an advisor to the president of the European Commission. And that happened at a very fortuitous time. It was a moment that many of us might remember. It was the height of the euro crisis. The European governments had racked up enormous deficits and debts over many years that they were now wanting to put all of us on the hook for. Bailout had followed bailout, and by the time Cyprus came along in 2013, bailouts were toxic. They couldn't do it anymore. So they got creative, and they did the most short-sighted and dumbest thing you could possibly do. They took their greedy little fingers and stuck them straight into our bank accounts and did a haircut on deposits, telling every depositor in every bank in Europe, your money is not safe anywhere. We will literally just take it overnight. For many of us in this room, that might have been the moment we discovered Bitcoin, because it went from $13 to $50 before the crisis, and then from $50 to $111 in the next 8 months after Cyprus. Many of us learned what it means to have unconfiscatable wealth in that month, and most of us are still stacking to this day. Fuck you, EU, and other would-be bank robbers. Around the same time, Russia launched its first invasion of Ukraine. And a year ago, many of us were shocked to see that they launched it into a full-scale invasion of the country itself. Now, governments across the West are racking up their military spending, if not directly, then as aid to Ukraine. And I have the question, where are the taxpayers that are clamoring for this war? If they exist, it is with a despondent outlook that if we don't do it, they will. But it is, of course, not taxes that's going to be used to pay to kill people we will never know. It is inflation and money printing that will put us all on the hook for these forever wars. It is time to take the money printer away from these maniacs. Fuck you, Putin, and other would-be warmongers. They say that European history, is a nightmare from which we're all trying to wake up. Bitcoin is the alarm clock. Good morning, Europe. The sun is rising. The hardest thing to understand about Bitcoin is that it is not their decision. It's yours. So when you're here at this conference this week, I hope you go and talk to every single one of the brilliant Bitcoin companies that are building the future we will share on this continent. I hope you go to the talks and let yourself be inspired by all the brilliant minds who will shape that world that we will share. I hope you go home after this conference and build yourself a family that can become part of our citadels. That is my dream coming out of this conference. But most of all, my message to you is this: stay. Don't go. Don't make your plan Bs into your plan As. We owe it to the past, to the bones of our ancestors and to the stones of their works, to stand firm in that tradition that I started this speech with and use a tool that they would have died to have to make this continent a freer, a better, a more prosperous world than we entered into. I hope you will be inspired and feel hopeful after this conference. I hope you'll connect with a lot of fellow plebs and have a lot of fun. And I hope you will go home and keep building until the next time we see each other. Bitcoin is the fuck you money that Europe needs. Welcome to Bitcoin Prague. Thank you.